Hi, how are you? This time we will create a custom progress bar with a very elegant and attractive appearance, where we can customize the colors of all the components shown here, resize any component at will, be it the font or the slider. In addition to being able to customize how the value is displayed, whether it is left, right, centered, sliding, or simply not showing it. Add a symbol or any text before or after the value, and we can also show the maximum value, in order to see the progress in detail. Okay, enough of the preambles and let's get started with the tutorial. We will add a new class and put any name.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side.
We inherit the conventional progress bar control. Before declaring the fields, we will create an enum to set the position of the value text. That is, show the value to the left, right, centered, or not show it. Now we will define fields for the appearance and assign their default values. In this case, a field for the channel color of the progress bar, color of the slider, background color of the text. A field to set the height of the channel, height of the slider, and position to show the value.
I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go.
We will also define other fields to avoid flickering. A field to determine if the background has been painted, and another field to stop painting, since the painting of the progress bar is executed at every moment. This is due to the animation that it has. In the constructor, we specify the style and behavior of the control. In this case, the control will be painted by the user and not by the operating system. And finally we set a default text color. Okay. Now we will create the properties of these fields, so that we can change the appearance of the control from the properties box.
We'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to...
Next, in the set xaxis, we invoke the invalidate method, to repaint the control and thus update the appearance.
Wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go.
We will also override the font property, because it is hidden in the toolbox in the code editor. Then we just show it again.
We'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
Optionally, we override the for-color property, to group the properties in a single category and thus be able to easily locate them in the properties box. Okay, these are all the fields and properties needed to create the custom progress bar. For this we will repaint a new appearance of the control. This will be a more extensive code than the previous ones, so I am going to divide it into 3 parts so that it is easy to understand and you do not collapse when you see it. So, first, we will paint the background in the channel or tracker. Then the slider or indicator. And finally the text of the value. Let's start with the bottom and the channel. To do this, we will override the onPaintBackground event method. To make the painting, we must check if the painting was not stopped, and the background has not been painted. This is very important to avoid flickering, since under these conditions the background will only be painted once and not every moment. Okay, let's declare the necessary fields to paint. A graphics object for drawing or painting. A rectangle for the channel dimensions. And a solid brush to paint the channel. Now we will modify the position of the y-axis of the channel rectangle, since it will vary according to the height of the channel or slider. So, if the height of the channel is greater than or equal to the height of the slider, the y-axis will be equal to the subtraction of the height of the control and the height of the channel. That is, the channel will dock at the bottom. Otherwise, the channel will be centered on the slider, as shown in the image.
Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around.
Now let's start with the painting. First, we will paint the surface of the control with the same color of the form or control container, or you can use the back color of the same control, and thus be able to change the background color as you wish. Then we paint the channel with the previously created parameters. And finally, we indicate that the background and the channel have been painted, then the painting of these must stop.
Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song.
Then outside the condition block, we restart the painting of the background and channel when the value has reached the maximum value, or when the value is at the minimum value.
Fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go.
Okay, that's it for the background and the channel. Now we will paint the slider or indicator. To do this, we override the unpaint event method. In the same way, we check if the painting was not stopped, and we declare the necessary fields to paint the slider. A graphics object for drawing or painting. A field to obtain the scale factor of the progress bar. This is obtained by dividing the subtraction of the current value and the minimum value, and the subtraction of the maximum value and the minimum value. To get an accurate result, it is necessary to convert one of the fields to a double type. So, the width of the slider is equal to multiplying the width of the control by the scale factor. Now, we declare a rectangle for the dimensions of the slider. And finally, a solid brush to paint the slider. Similar to the previous method, it is necessary to modify the position of the y-axis of the slider rectangle, as it will vary depending on the height of the channel or slider. So, if the height of the slider is greater than or equal to the height of the channel, the y-axis will be to the subtraction of the height of the control and the height of the slider. That is, the slider will dock at the bottom. Otherwise, the slider will be centered on the channel, as shown in the image.
And on we'll go. Through the wastelands, through the highways.
These conditions alternate with the conditions of the previous method, that is, the tallest component will dock at the bottom of the control, and the component with less height will dock at the center of the tallest component. Okay, now let's start painting the slider. If the width of the slider is greater than 1, we paint the slider with the parameters set in the fields. Now, if the position of the valued text is different to none, we draw the text. As parameters, we send the graphics object, the width of the slider, and the rectangle. This method doesn't exist yet, so we just generate it.
We'll go. Through the wastelands, through the highways. And on.
Very well, now we will draw the text. For this we declare the following fields. A field for the text that will be equal to the value. Optionally we can concatenate the percentage symbol. A field to get the size of the previous text. A rectangle for the dimensions of the text. A solid brush to draw the text. Another solid brush to paint the background of the text. And finally, a format for the text.
We'll go. till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
In a similar way as in the previous rectangles, it is necessary to modify the location. In this case, the x-axis, according to the position of the set value. So, here we will make use of the switch selection declaration for the show value field. For the case of the left position, the x-axis of the text will be 0, and the alignment of the text will be near, that is to say to the left.
Through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
For the case of the right position, the x-axis of the text will be the subtraction of the width of the control and the width of the text, and the alignment of the text will be far, that is to say to the right. Similarly for the case of the centered position. Well, and that's it. It is not necessary to do anything for the case of the position none, since the text is not displayed. Also, this method is only executed for the other cases. However, here we will do something additional. We will draw a slider text, that is to say that it moves next to the slider. So, we declare a new text position, named sliding. Well, for the case of the slider position, the x-axis of the text will be the subtraction between the width of the slider and the width of the text, and the alignment of the text will be centered. Okay, for this special case, you need to clean the previous surface of the text, as it moves next to the slider. Then we create a solid brush object and a rectangle, in order to paint a rectangle with the same background color of the form or control container. Alright, finally we paint the background of the text and draw the text of the current value of the progress bar. And that's all. To generate the control or save the changes, we must build the project.
And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays.
The custom control painting works perfectly. The location of the text area is set by the height of the control. Then you can zoom in or out of the channel. We can change the height of the channel and slider at will, the font size, the color and position of the value text, and thus we can create a totally personalized and elegant appearance. I will add a button and a timer to test the progress bar.
Through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on
Great, for now it works properly. I'll add other progress bars, to verify that everything works fine.
hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's
Here is an error: when the position of the text is sliding, the previous area of the text is not cleaned. Well, here the problem is very simple. I was wrong to set the height of the rectangle. Let's try again.
No, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns.
Great, the previous area of the sliding text is cleaned properly. However, there are still flickers in the text when the progress bar reaches the maximum value. Well, apparently I forgot to stop painting when the progress bar reaches the maximum value. So here, outside of the condition block, we create another condition. If the current value reaches the maximum value, we indicate to stop painting. Otherwise, keep painting. Okay, the flickers in the text have disappeared when the progress bar reaches the maximum value. The flickers happen because a progress bar is drawn at every moment. It does not matter if the slider advances or not. This happens because the progress bar needs to be repainted to give it the animation, as shown on the screen. So to eliminate flicker, short circuits were added. That is, to paint the background only once, and stop painting everything when the progress bar reaches the maximum value. However, if the progress bar starts with the current value other than the minimum value, then the painting will continue to run, so you must add another short circuit for the initial value. Well, you can also add more appearance features. For example, show the maximum value, add a symbol before or after the value. Create the properties of each field. And finally modify the text to display. Well, as usual, I will be posting the code on the website and the repository. I hope you liked this video, and until next time. Greetings to all.